Please welcome to the stage the moderator Jorge Cancio, Co-Director International Relations, Swiss Federal Office of Communications.
Hello everybody. So please get seated. We are starting very shortly to this second part of this session, the path forward WSIS plus 20. We will have an excellent panel discussing and following up on the discussion we had before with the co-facilitators and with the Undersecretary General from UNDESA. We have the privilege of having with us Ms. Karianne Tung, Minister of Digitization and Public Governance of Norway. Secondly, Ms. Baroness Maggie Jones, Parliamentary Undersecretary of State for the Future Digital Economy and Online Safety, Minister of Legislation from the UK. Mr. Curtis Lindquist, CEO from ICANN. Mr. Jameson Olufuye, Principal Consultant, Contemporary Consulting from Nigeria. And last but not least, Ms. Fabrizia Benini, Head of Unit, Next Generation Internet from the European Commission. So let's give them a warm welcome. So, hello, thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. This morning we had already a very interesting discussion with the co-facilitators from Kenya and Albania on the path forward on WSIS plus 20, also with the Undersecretary General from UNDESA. And now we want to dig a little bit deeper on some of the issues we are discussing during the whole week. So maybe you can also share your impressions, your takeaways from informal, formal, or corridor discussions with the many stakeholders that are assembled here. We have a set of questions, and I would go along the order we have agreed. First, with the question, what key milestones has the World Summit on the Information Society, WSIS, which is an acronym we will use a lot, achieved over the past 2 decades? And we would start with you, Minister Tung.
Thank you, moderator, and thank you for bringing this topic up for discussion. I believe that WSIS has had an enormous contributions for the population of the world during the last 20 years and for their access to internet as well. It has contributed to developing digital skills, the competence, but we can't relax. We are not finished. We have to close the digital divide because there is still a lot of the citizens of the world who don't access the internet as well. And I really also believe that the framework for the WSIS has contributed to establish a set of trust, to build trust between the different stakeholders that wouldn't have this floor to meet and to discuss and to be together. So the framework of the WSIS has really contributed to that. And I think the organization of WSIS based on the multi-stakeholder model also has strengthen the legitimacy and the relevance for the processes that has been done during the last 20 years of IGF and WSIS as well, because it means that the people that are affected by the discussions going on at IGF, they are really a part of the discussions themselves, and that is really important. And then I believe it's important also for the years to come that we are able to make the results from the discussion that has been going on at IGF available and more useful for policy making and so forth also. But I really believe that the WSIS and the IGF has been an important, call it prototype, on how we can implement the multi-stakeholder model together with the UN processes as well. So it has been significant the last couple of years, and I'm proud to be part of it.
Thank you so much, Minister Tonk. And I think prototype is a very good description. It's been a pilot now 20 years. It's a tested pilot, and maybe time to update it, make it even more permanent.
The longest living pilot.
Thank you so much. Baroness Jones, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And I agree that we have a great deal to be proud of over the last 20 years, and a lot of very practical steps that we've taken over that time. So we have the WSIS action lines and the WSIS forum, which has driven progress on sustainable development. The ITU WSIS stocktake database, which is very good examples of some of the steps that we have already taken, great WSIS projects. The WSIS process, as has been said, very important as a framework for multi-stakeholder action in a wide range of areas, and particularly the work that we're doing on connecting the unconnected. Over 17% of people had access to the internet in 2005, and now I'm very pleased to say that that's 67%. I'm not saying that's all as a result of WSIS activities, but we've certainly played our part in increasing that spread of access. And it's notable that over the last 20 years, we've been able to adapt to the new developments because things like the action lines are technology neutral, so it enables us to give us basis for going ahead in the future. So for us, our priorities have been and increasingly are capacity building, cultural diversity, and providing an enduring framework to make sure that we reach out to those who are unable to play their part at the current time. So we need to be flexible to address those new priorities and ensure that WSIS is able to face the future challenges. But I would say that we're in a very good position to do that. The landscape has become increasingly complex, but it's the very fact that we have a unique, diverse involvement, I think, gives us a huge basis to go forward. Research by the DNS Research Federation in Oxford demonstrated that the impact of the IGF for example, driving growth on the internet exchange points in Africa, nurturing the next generation of global South leaders, and beginning to address online harms. So a huge number of activities. We want to make the case today, and we will be making that case for a more permanent mandate for the IGF, and I hope that we will, in the coming months, be able to win that argument.
Thank you so much, Baroness Jones, for highlighting some of the very tangible impact of this forum. Now we go to Curtis Lindquist.
Thank you. This week's conversations that has been across sessions on resilience, multilingual access, digital fragmentation, and many, many other topics have really underscored one thing, and that is that the WSIS framework remains foundational to global digital cooperation. And this framework really created a shared vision for how digital governance should evolve through practical stakeholder-driven cooperation. And this vision is also what gave rise to the IGF and reinforced the value of the multi-stakeholder model, something that we at ICANN have been applying in practice since our formation, which actually predates the IGF. And we also see this vision echoed through the national regional IGFs, something that I think we should mention a bit more often, which continue to connect the global and local governance conversations into each other, and I think that's an important part as well. And this model has, in the last 2 decades, provided phenomenal economic growth, value creation that really stemmed from the permissionless bottom-up innovation the model has enabled, but also stimulated by the discussions inside WSIS and at the IGFs. And as we just heard today, more than 5 billion people have come online, and most of these since in the last 20 years. And this didn't happen through the technical coordination, distributed stewardship, and global engagement we have seen. And ICANN, we see this result every day. The services that we coordinate and provide must function for the internet to globally generate trust and scale. And for us to be able to do our job and for this to work, we need to have exactly what the WSIS stands for: the open dialogue, the operational coordination and cooperation, and a commitment to a single interoperable internet.
Thank you so much, Curtis, also for recalling that every day as we speak, everybody is probably looking into his emails, WhatsApp, or Signal, or whatever. It's the underlying infrastructure that is working and which is based on trust and on voluntary cooperation. Thank you so much. Jimson, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, George. My name again is Jimson Olufuye. Yeah, my day job, principal consultant at Contemporary Consulting Limited, based in Abuja, Nigeria. And as a volunteer, I have the privilege of advocating the private sector view from Africa through the Africa ICT Alliance, an alliance formed in 2012 with 6 countries in Africa, and now we're in 43 countries in Africa, pushing the message of ICT connectivity, bridging the digital divide. Well, as we all know, the WSIS is aimed at achieving a people-centered, inclusive, and even a highly productive information society where nobody is left behind. We saw this, and indeed that was why AFICTA was formed. So we can say AFICTA is one of the outcomes of WSIS. And its vision is to fulfill the promise of the digital age for everyone in Africa. And so the WSIS has provided a solid foundation for multi-stakeholder engagement, where our own voices could be heard, the private sector, even from developing countries. We also see that through WSIS, as my colleagues have mentioned, we have the robust IGF, where all of us can, on equal footing, make our views known, and we can have constructive dialogue on moving our society forward to achieving that information society of our collective expectation. Another outcome, of course, is the WSIS Forum. The WSIS Forum has always provided a solid opportunity for us to review the action lines. The action lines are very, very relevant even to today, and I see them be relevant to tomorrow. And through the action lines, we're able to have further discussion, even at the African level. We have UNECA leading the charge. But the missing link will be that maybe we need to discuss this at the national level, just as we have the IGF, okay, being discussed at over 170 countries now doing their own IGF. So we also need WSIS action line reviewed there. That's part of our expectation. Another thing you can see coming out from WSIS is the UNGIS, where you have about 20 United Nations organizations coming together and exchanging best practices and review things and shaping policy with regard to digital technology. And there's something that many people don't mention, but Ambassador Lokale mentioned it briefly, and that's enhanced cooperation. Okay, we see the successful IANA transition. We see that we all of us, the global community, we are responsible, even for what President Curtis mentioned. We are all responsible for making sure that our internet is trustworthy, and that's the major outcome of WSIS, really, and for us in the developing countries. And last month, I was at CSTD, and I was really pleased to see that enhanced cooperation at work, where government, they do their things, coming up with policy, in the presence of even all of us, the stakeholders, the private sector, the civil society, and we're given privilege to even raise our voices and have fluid discussion. And I also see that the government could vote based on issues, and which is enhanced cooperation, basically. So WSIS has really become that real omnibus foundation for the digital society. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jameson, and especially for underscoring how WSIS has brought also this idea of dialogue and togetherness to the national and the regional level. And now to finalize this question, we have Fabrizia Benini.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So the European Commission and its member states is extremely attached to the WSIS process. To do that, and to contribute to the negotiations that will take place, we adopted a common position that was well discussed and endorsed by our Council. And in preparing that, we looked at the contribution of WSIS up to today, the subject of your question, and is undoubtedly that it has given the possibility to have a conversation, a global conversation amongst everyone about the tenets of the problems, the challenges and the opportunities of digitization. And it is a conversation in the multi-stakeholder format that involves, as you know, academia, private sector, governments, and the tech community. And because those voices are different, it is a challenging conversation. It is not an easy process, but it is a process that is precious to uphold and precious to go forward. Now, it can be improved, and we hope it will, especially to make it more inclusive and very engaging to the young people. We own that, to them, and because we are discussing what will impact their future. But this conversation has also had results. We've seen a contribution, a notable contribution to reducing the digital divide. Again, it still exists, but connectivity is better, skills are better, people are more empowered. Looking forward, we must make sure that the new technologies, we continue to have the conversation about the potency of the new technologies, the impact it will have, it has already had. I had the privilege of being with the minister in a panel about the impact on children as regards the use of social media. All these things merit attention, attention and action. And perhaps the one important issue is the IGF. We are here today. We have a place. The conversation has got a home. And this home needs to be permanent, it needs to be reinforced, it needs to be efficient, because this conversation needs to continue having human rights as its center, having the human as its center, to see that digitization benefits us all.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Fabrizia. And this is a perfect segue to the second question, because you are already addressing some of the challenges, and that sometimes it's not an easy conversation, of course. So the second question is, what emerging digital trends present the most pressing opportunities, but also challenges in updating the WSIS framework for the next decade or decades? And we will start with you, Baroness Jones.
Thank you. And I think we can all agree that the digital landscape is becoming increasingly complex. And it's increasingly difficult for public policy makers and other stakeholders to navigate that new world, which is why I think WSIS is playing or will play an increasingly important role in the future, providing a joined-up framework to allow some of the discussions we've already been having to continue in an effective way. I would say that we need to avoid duplication and genuinely ensure that stakeholders from every part of the globe are part of that ongoing discussion in the future. The UK wants to see the WSIS 20 review being future-focused, recognising the future challenges. In connecting the unconnected, we need to use that as an opportunity to bring forward new investment, which can help some of our developing nations have the full opportunities that many others have. And that means looking at affordability, means looking at innovative solutions such as community networks, and encouraging digital content in local languages. The gender divide remains a huge challenge for us, Globally, there were 244 million more men than women using the internet in 2023. So we would like to see a strengthened role for UN Women and for us to work with them to address those issues in the future. We want to see a more formal role for the UN OHCHR in the WSIS process, raising the whole issue of human rights in the information society, which is becoming increasingly prominent, and a greater role for UNESCO's work, protecting journalists and tackling the damaging effects of internet shutdowns. For example, the UN is proud to have led the Freedom Online Coalition efforts to tackle internet shutdowns. And I'd like to highlight the FOC's statement on internet shutdowns during conflict, which has been launched today. Another issue we need to address is the environmental impact of the information and communication technologies and all of the global greenhouse gas emissions that challenge raises. We need global solutions to address that. So strengthening partnership through WSIS, we believe, will give us an effective platform to tackle those challenges and make sure that everybody benefits. But I think the key message here is we can't be complacent. We have a lot to be proud of, but also we need to challenge ourselves and look genuinely at the new challenges and how WSIS can really, really step up and play an increasingly leadership role to make sure that everybody shares in the potential that we have for the future.
Hear, hear. Thank you so much for that. And I think you mentioned community networks. It's important to highlight the important work that was done in this community on that matter in the Best Practice Forum on Connectivity. So there's a lot more to do, but we are eager to hear your views, Minister Tong.
Thank you, and thank you, Baroness, for the points that you made out. At IGF, the governance of internet is at its core, but I think we've seen during the last couple of days that there has been several different topics regarding internet and digitalizations, from subsea cables until protecting children and so forth. So I think it's really important that we continue to have this broad perspective, even though the governance of internet is and should be at the core of both the WSIS process, but also the IGF. And I want to point out something about the action lines as well, because they are broad, they are tech neutral. I believe that is important because we don't know what kind of technology that hits us tomorrow. We are now discussing a lot about artificial intelligence, but also quantum, for instance, or other things will come in the future. So I think it's important that we have the action actually lined out in a way that we are able to take this continuously new discussions on the inside, for one thing. But I think there are some areas that we could implement also in the perspectives of the action line, and number one is already one I mentioned. Artificial intelligence, it will impact our societies very broadly. It is a tool for solving some of the huge societal challenges that we are facing right now. I really believe it is a tool for dividing the digital gap. It is a tool for doing a lot of things. However, it comes with huge ethical aspects as well. And being able to have this international discussion, a discussion about the ethical implication of the technology, I believe that is one area that we could look further into when it comes to the action lines as well. Another thing, data governance, because data is feeding the artificial intelligence as well. And it is a fundament for artificial intelligence to be a real tool to use in the years to come. So I think we should have a look at data governance more thoroughly when it comes to open data, personal privacy, data sharing and so forth, because also this is ethical discussion. It affects humans. And last but not least, I also want to raise a personal issue for me, but an issue I know many people, parents, kids, are concerned about, and that is the internet-based platforms. They have many positive effects for connecting people, closing the digital divide. But as we discussed also yesterday, the tech companies or the platform, they are powerful. Harmful algorithms. Our kids are screaming for help because they having trouble with sleep, with health issues, body issues, and so forth because of this algorithm. So we have to work together, both the governments, the civil society, but also the tech companies, to tackle these challenges that hits our kids. So that is kind of 3 examples where I could see we could have discussions in the future also for IGF and the WSIS process.
Thank you so much, Minister Tung. And as a parent, I completely relate to that. And if we think about it, social media are algorithms are the basis for platforms. Platforms only work with data, and data is only made available through artificial intelligence, and you cannot have that without connectivity. That's why we discuss all these topics here at the IGF and why it's so important to continue this conversation. Jimson.
Thank you, George. The WSIS action lines, they are really still very, very relevant to address any emerging issues. And for that matter, emerging issues like artificial intelligence, data governance, information integrity, digital public infrastructure, digital public goods, etc., etc. Even many more will still emerge. But from a very close and constructive examination, the 11 WSIS action line covered anything that could come up, at least from my perspective. If you look at data, which is the king right now, which is foundation, data is addressed under access to information and knowledge, action line C2. AI itself, which is an application, to be frank, is an application, is addressed under action line C7. It's also addressed under the ethics C8, and it was C10 in terms of local content, diversity, linguistic diversity, and so on and so forth. So basically, we don't really need to make significant changes at all. We just need to contextualize anything that will come up. Cybersecurity is already there in terms of security and trust. And we also need to deepen the discussion, connecting it to the NRIs, and ensure that we cover the broad action line topics, as I mentioned earlier, in those evolving NRIs. In fact, from the information I got, some people are actually talking about even subnational NIRs, because at the subnational level, there are issues. So we are encouraging them, okay, discuss all this at a local level, because what we are looking at is truly information society. So we don't really need any new structural changes. Let's sustain what we have. The IGF is brilliant. Let's bring in the Sao Paulo multi-stakeholder guideline. Let's do it better. And as such, we can tackle any emerging challenges appropriately. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimson. And this is a thought that we've heard many times over during this week, that WSIS, and especially the action lines, have this technological neutrality. Somebody said they are technologically agnostic, and that means that they are open to many of these new developments. But of course, we need to contextualize them, what a difficult word, to the new realities and to adapt the work we do here, but also the UN agencies do. And this brings me also to a question about the question how the UN agencies and all the stakeholders work together. And the third question, which is, what strategic updates must the WSIS Plus 20 review consider within the WSIS architecture, the different component parts of WSIS, including the IGF, of course, to better address these pressing, emerging governance challenges. And I will start with you, Curtis.
Thank you. So, WSIS Plus 20 is really a test of whether we still value global coordination over institutional control. And the IGF's strength lies in what it enables, the open engagement across stakeholder groups without the pressure to negotiate or formalize the outcomes as binding declarations. And that flexibility is really a strength, it's not a weakness. It's precisely what makes the IGF an effective incubator for ideas and a catalyst for a lot of the cooperation. It provides a space, a real physical protected space for governments, civil society, businesses, and the technical community to confront the shared problems without needing to reach a forced consensus, but to engage and share ideas. And there is growing fragmentation, and this IGF's open architecture really remains one of the few global platforms that are capable of holding cooperation together in that dialogue and through that discussion. But providing a space alone isn't enough. We also, from ICANN, we helped create a paper called The IGF We Want that outlined some of the steps of what we think that a future IGF could look like. And it must be properly resourced, anchored in the WSIS frameworks, and to be strengthened to continue to play this important role as the neutral collaborative forum and supporting this open stakeholder, multi-stakeholder format. And as part of that, we also believe that we should strengthen the output. We heard Minister Tsung say this morning. We can have a strengthened output. We can also potentially use the IGF mandate to report to General Assembly. But there should be more output coming out of the IGF as a summary of all the phenomenal, fantastic work that's been going on here for 20 years. And all the successes we have achieved over 20 years, and we, together with ISOC, produced a paper called The Footprints of 20 years of the IGF that actually highlights a lot of these successes that has happened, as we heard, the IXPs that have grown phenomenally in Africa, and a lot of other work that's been discussed here at the IGF. And strengthening the output and having the IGF, the multi-stakeholder model, reinforced and properly resourced is really the same model that we have been supporting globally, including our long-standing engagement with the network of the national and regional IGFs that I mentioned before, something I again want to reiterate that we shouldn't forget in this. And this is really the model that the IGF reflects, the stakeholder-led coordination built on trust and practical outcomes. And if we replace this model with something that's more rigid or politicized, we risk losing one of these few global spaces where we can have this meaningful digital cooperation, and it can still happen.
Thank you so much, Curtis. And dialogue is definitely not a bug, but a feature of this space, and it should permeate the rest of the WSIS framework, I understand. But let's go to Fabrizia.
So when we think about strategic updates, I think we need to think about the changing environment in the last 20 years. What we've seen is that the internet and the digital services have permeated just about each and every of our actions. Now, there's not an even use of that throughout the world, but the extent to which digital interactions can touch each most intimate part of our lives makes it absolutely important that we safeguard what we already have. We have a multi-stakeholder model that is difficult, and it is absolutely key not to be complacent, to reinforce it, to revitalize it, to make it really participatory, to shy away very strongly against any temptation of internet shutdowns, any temptation of fragmentation, and to keep the internet really as a global open space that is accessible to all. Now, through the good work of ICANN, we know the architecture is robust, but we must ask ourselves the question, will it be robust in face of the new technologies? Will the governance model hold? And this is what we did in Brussels. We held a conference on the governance of Web 4.0, the future, what is not yet here. But what is it that we need to be aware, keeping our foundation multi-stakeholder model, keeping our governance, but adapting it, protecting it to make sure that it continues to really to serve all.
Thank you so much, Fabrizia, for referring to this need to update and to adapt to new challenges like the metaverse, this very important conference you organized a couple of months ago, right? So that is something that definitely has to feed in also at the global level here in the IGF. And we are getting closer to the end of the panel section, but we still have one question, which is our fourth question. What are the concrete ways WSIS and indeed the IGF can better integrate the implementation of the Global Digital Compact and also align with the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda to achieve the governance coherence and in the end not leaving anyone behind and making information society for all. And here we will have all of you again taking the floor, starting with you, Minister Tong.
Thank you. I think it is important that we are building on the fundamentals from WSIS because we've seen that there has been tendency to do parallel processes, and we should avoid this also because it is an issue of capacity to be a part of different processes going on at the same time about the same thing. I believe that the WSIS should be the lead process for digital cooperation, where the GDC can be connected more towards and implemented together with the WSIS process as well. And that believes, or that means that the things that we already do, the activities that already is being done, like the IGF, the best practice forums, the dynamic coalition, we can continue to do this, but be better implemented so that we don't have these parallel processes. And at the same time, doing WSIS and IGF, talking about the governance of internet, we also have been talking about digital cooperation. And the agenda on the IGF meetings and WSIS forum, they have always covered different topics within the governance of internet and digital services, all from infrastructure to applications and so forth. So I think we already here see that there are some overlap between the GDC and WSIS, and it's necessary that we are better able to coordinate and integrate these processes that are going on. I mentioned earlier also that I think it's important that we are able to communicate better the results and the messages that come out from IGF, so that we can better use it for policy making and so forth, but also that we use the IGF meetings, the experts and the expertise, the knowledge and experiences that we got from the IGF common or meetings, but also the networks from IGF, that we can canalize these results, these messages better into the UN systems, so that we are actually better coordinated as well. And to do this, I think it's important that we strengthen the IGF. For Norway, it is important that we are able to give IGF a permanent mandate. That is a key priority, so that it's more predictable and more complementary on the existing structures that we already have. So permanent mandate is one thing. The other thing, that a permanent or a strengthened mandate also demands more predictable funding, which has been an issue for several years really, but funding is really important so that we are able to keep up this good work, these good meetings, these good processes for the good of the world, for the good of the citizens, that is human-based, that is based on human rights, that are open, that are free, that are democratic. So better coordination, strengthened and permanent mandate is my key takeaways.
Thank you so much. And better coordination, integration, and communication amongst all the pieces of the WSIS architecture. I take that away from your intervention as well. Now we have Jimson.
Yeah, thank you. I actually mentioned earlier that the WSIS is like the parent structure. We must commend our head of states in 2003, 2005 for that agreement, and all the people that worked, because it was really all encompassing. And talking about the link between WSIS, GDC, and of course IGF and SDG 2030, I will underscore again that GDC is an offshoot of WSIS because we had the Enhanced Cooperation Working Group 2018, and in January we concluded, although there was no 100% consensus, but we had majority agreement. And because we did not have 100% consensus, the Secretary General launched the high-level panel on digital cooperation with Belinda and Alibaba as co-chair. And then there are a lot of processes that led to the Summit of the Future. So, and then Global Digital Compact. So indeed, they are interwoven. But by the way, as I mentioned earlier, Enhanced Cooperation ICL is already operational in CSTD, working pretty well. So the outcome of GDC can easily be intertwined with WSIS because they have the same kind of objectives, but so enhance the realization of the Sustainable Development Goal. How do we implement this? IGF is a beautiful forum wherein we can always analyze those teams, especially the teams from GDC. We can look at it, map it. There's already some form of mapping. We can still go ahead and map to KPI in terms of what we need to achieve by the 2030. So we already have the platform. We have the structure. IGF, everybody can come in and bring in what they're doing. But I will emphasize, as I mentioned earlier, we need to encourage our countries to deepen this dialogue with their Sustainable Development Goal offices, because we cannot be discussing at the top level and at the grassroots, nothing much is happening. So we encourage our countries to take this dialogue seriously, the WSIS action line discussion, the GDC objectives of 1 to 5, and of course the SDG, mapping them and measuring progress. By so doing, we can really easily see where we are, measure where we are as we approach the year 2030. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jimson, for reminding us that the GDC is part of the WSIS family, and as a good, well-functioning family, we should all communicate with each other. Now, Baroness Jones.
Thank you. It's understandable, I think, that increasing parts of the UN are beginning to address the challenges of digital technology, because it's, as we've been discussing, affecting so many parts of our lives now. But whilst it does that, and it's quite understandable it does, I think we need to make sure that that doesn't result in fragmentation and duplication, and that's the real challenge I think we are dealing with here. The fact is that WSIS, our multi-stakeholder engagement, is a very unique in this experience, and I think that's one of our great strengths, and we need to make sure that that is the basis on which the work goes forward, so that that wonderful partnership that we've been developing can endure. And we also think that there's a role for the UN interagency coordination through the UN Group on the Information Society. Having said that, the Global Digital Compact, agreed last year at the UN, was a great achievement, and it does give us a good basis to go forward with the WSIS review. So we want to now use the review to ensure that the GDC is perhaps integrated more into the WSIS processes going forward, so that we don't have that duplication that is a concern, and we can promote alignment a lot more easily through the UN system. We were pleased that in April the UN Commission for Science and Technology for Development supported this approach, and the Office for Digital and Emerging Technologies can play its part in supporting coordination amongst UN partners, making sure that there is that coherence that we can all identify as necessary. We also think that the review of the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda will be a critical milestone in ensuring that the full potential of that information and communication technologies reaches out to all and is part of our sustainable community development. We believe in all of that, the IGF can play an important role, and giving it a permanent mandate, which is one of our themes this morning, I think is absolutely critical for that. And we also see going forward that there is a greater role for national and regional IGFs to play to make sure that we build on the model that we can prove works. So promoting more community voices, making sure that they feed into the ultimate UN processes, I think is really important. Those are the sorts of ways that we think we can move forward, but the key message for us is streamline as much as we can, use the model that we have here that we think works, but understand that the UN will want to take big global strategic decisions on these issues.
Thank you so much, Baroness Jones. No fragmentation, no duplication, but integration. Curtis, do you agree?
Yes, absolutely. I think that looking at the GDCs and the SDGs, I think the implementation of this begins really with the infrastructure layer, and the infrastructure begins with the coordination. At ICANN, our mission is very technical, but our impact is very foundational. It's what enables everything else. We manage the unique identifiers that allow the internet to function as one unified network that enables everything from e-commerce to emergency alerts to digital government services, and at scale. And at ICANN, we work very much on contributing to internet resiliency by coordinating these technical identifiers to ensure that we have a globally interoperable internet. But beyond that, we also work to, for example, to the Coalition for Digital Africa, something that we initiated. And through this, we are supporting the deployment of additional infrastructure in underserved regions, for example, to the root servers. We work on capacity building efforts on deploying more DNSSEC that will make the internet more secure and robust. And beyond that, we work a lot of on what's called universal acceptance through academia. And we're not just advocating for universal acceptance. Universal acceptance is the availability of the internet in scripts and languages that are non-Latin based, which is a very important part of making the internet accessible. And we're working actively both on technical readiness work, but also building local capacity development and global partnerships to further this work. And through the Coalition for Digital Africa, we have worked through the Association of African Universities to develop advanced multilingual access in academia institutions on that continent, and help them develop courses and curriculums to further develop this and enhance the awareness and development of universal acceptance initiatives. And this is really important, we believe. And these are just some examples of what meaningful access looks like, so strengthening the infrastructure, making it available in local languages and scripts. And here the IGF really has a role to play as the connectivity tissue between these efforts and the global development goals, practical implementations, the sustainable development goals and practical implementation, and also with the WSIS action lines. And these work really support both the WSIS action lines, the multiple of the SDGs, and they are overlapping. We have the matrix that shows how these tie together. For example, on resilient infrastructure, quality education to multilingual access, reducing inequalities, those are all supported through this work. And WSIS and the IGF can much better work on integrating this, as we just mentioned. I completely agree with this, by surfacing and scaling these efforts and implementation to raise awarenesses. And this really means that we need to elevate the IGF, as I said before. We shouldn't bypass it, we should invest in it, We should really not try to duplicate and replicate it, as the Baroness just said. I completely agree with that. So really protect this work that's ongoing and protecting the single interoperable core from fragmentation, both on a technical level but also on the institutional level, as you just talked about.
Thank you, Curtis, and thank you for highlighting all that very practical work on the ground and relating it to the IGF, and I like that metaphor very much as a connecting tissue, because that also, I think, is a challenge for us to imagine the new ways of cooperation and coordination, of collaboration and communication we need to really make it even more efficient, working more effectively to achieve the goals. Fabrizia, what is your take?
So, like other speakers before me, one of our tenets in the strong support that we have for the WSIS process is that we need to avoid duplication. We need to increase synergies that need to be mutually reinforcing. So these are very good words, but how is it that we go about that? Well, our approach is to propose a roadmap system. We've seen that work has already been done in the past years to map the GDC, the SDGs and the WSIS action lines. We've seen recently the STD busy on that, incorporating also the GDC commitments. So we think that there is room for the action line facilitators, together with the relevant bodies in the UN that can contribute meaningfully, to set out actionable roadmaps that will track the implementation and the progress, starting from the WSIS action lines, the SDG goals, and the GDC commitments, so that we are able to have a clear understanding of where we are, a clear understanding of what needs to be done, and therefore take the action in the appropriate fora to make sure that those gaps are filled. But unless there is clarity as to where we are, we can't coordinate well. So that would be our proposal.
Thank you so much for that refreshing intervention, bringing us from principles, which are very, very important, to very actionable proposals, and a proposal that resonates a lot with what has been discussed this week in the session we had before with the co-facilitators, co-facilitator Ambassador Ekitele from Kenya already mentioned that this idea of a joint implementation roadmap, of roadmaps based on the action lines and integrating the work, is something they will definitely consider and put to the discussion of stakeholders and member states. So that's a really good outcome of this week, for instance, of discussions. But before we congratulate ourselves, I think now it's the time to enter into interaction with our public, and we can change to the next segment of this session, and we will have 2 minutes in addition for that. There are 2 microphones. Now they are getting highlighted. This is great for somebody so short-sighted like myself. Please get on the row if you have any question, any message you want to share with this panel, with the rest of the audience. Please keep it short and sweet, a maximum of 2 minutes per intervention, and please introduce yourself. And from time to time, I don't know if she might be highlighted as well, our online moderator will look whether we have interventions from the online world. So I'll start with the left. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you. I will be speaking Spanish.
These have been very interesting things that have been said.
Devices, that would be helpful. I understand Spanish, so I don't have to.
I understand Spanish, so then you can take this one.
Yeah, and maybe I can help in the translation if somebody doesn't get it.
Ready?
So I think
Gracias. Eric Iriart.
Yo soy del Perú. Qué bueno poder, how nice to be able to speak in my own language. Because we are a linguistic diversity, with cultural diversity, and in different countries, we've talked about this content and the use of technologies. It's not the same just legislate on technology as about the construction of the technology. What we're using is technology which is produced elsewhere under other rules. In the past 20 years, lots of discussion have been about how do we regulate something that we do not control because it's not part of our legislation. Taxes, for example, content control. We've tried to focus on that in different ways, controlling content to avoid abuse, trying to connect everyone. Then everyone's to have the last say in the systems. We see that in our countries as well. Technology, particularly after the pandemic, have become increasingly relevant. How can we preach to those who are already converts? We have to bring them to the table. For years, we've said that we're part of the technological community, but they have general science, to put it that way. We have to take all of this out of the IGF to other places. When we enter into discussions in parliaments on legislation, for example, on bullying women, then the focus is completely different than the digital topics. And it's very difficult to regulate the platforms. This is a very relevant discussion, and it should be taken to the next level. So the first thing we have to do is to bring to the table the players who are not us. Preach to the converts. It's not relevant. We know this. We can work together. But if we don't bring the others in a level of advocacy in our own countries, we can't get anywhere. We have to negotiate not among ourselves, but with others, so that we can have a common resource. The international is very important. It's quite clear the development of regulations and policies have to be integrated in a mold that can be used by everyone, but it's not used by everyone. We know that. And it's a reality. We have different cultural and political realities. So what we do at the IGF, we can have to hear the voices, not only our own voices.
Muchas gracias, Eric, por esa intervención un poco más larga de lo previsto. Vamos a tomar unas intervenciones y luego pasaremos a las reacciones del panel. So I'll switch again to English. Thank you, Eric, for that intervention, which was a bit longer than expected. But we will take some and then hear if the panel has any reactions. I go to my right. Please introduce yourself, and please keep it to 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, William Lee, Australian Government. Obviously want to thank Norway for its excellent hosting of the IGF and this excellent panel. You've talked about some really important issues, and these are really tough challenges to solve. And I think as governments, we're all scratching around looking for the best way to solve them. And I think WSIS is a critical tool towards achieving global action on many of those difficult problems. I think the value of WSIS Plus 20 will be the opportunity to have an ideas conversation, hearing all voices, including those from least developed countries and small island developing states, and to translate that to global norms and an action-orientated agenda, taking forth what works and seeing new partnerships form to close those digital divides. I know we are starting to see some really positive ideas emerge from Switzerland, from the EU, from ICANN, from ISOC, from Australia, and from others. But I wondered if you had any reflections on how we continue to promote a positive ideas conversation and avoid the temptation to simply revert to a conversation over language, which won't deliver us the actions and outcomes that as a global community we need. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Will, and thank you for highlighting also the Australian non-paper, which is worthwhile, has a lot of ideas in it, good basis for contributing to the conversation. We'll see, do we have anything online? Please, Eleonora.
Yes, we do. Thank you, Jorge. We have a few questions online. I can start with the first.
Yes.
From Musa Maigari from Nigeria. What strategies can be implemented to enhance the participation of youth and women in the IGF and WSIS processes?
Thank you so much, Eleonora. And I think we can have a first round of reactions to what was said. Anyone from you on the panel? See, Fabrizia?
I would like to answer the first, Eric, the first question, because my executive vice president, Enna Virkunen, was here at the opening ceremony at the Digital Public Goods, and she did address some of those issues. The Union has just adopted an international strategy for digital, where we set out a vision of enhanced and increased digital partnerships with various countries of the world. We are very aware that it's not just a question of explaining what we do and saying, oh, would you like to do the same? No, it's not that at all. We are setting out what we call the EU offer, a set of tools that will allow, through very much the use of open source, those partner countries to take them and adapt them to their own internal uses. This is the case on connectivity, on cybersecurity, and it will be the case on all the layers of the internet stack, going from identity to decentralized social media. So our objective over the years is to deepen those partnerships and to make sure that we all become, in fact, actors, not only consumers. And that is an action on which the Union is very much focused. And of course, we are happy to share whatever tangible outcomes we will be able to reach at the next IGF.
Thank you so much, Fabrizia. Anyone else in the panel? Please keep it short and sweet.
Yes, so I just wanted to pick up the issue about women, and one of the points made was about how the internet increasingly is bullying women, and certainly that's been our experience as well in the UK. And we have taken action with the Online Safety Act in the UK, and we were very proud of that, but it's only the first step that we're taking. And one of the issues, the public debate in the UK has very much been, what are our neighbours doing? What are the other countries doing? So it's a much broader debate than perhaps we might think in the confines here. We genuinely want to reach out to develop new global norms about the standards that we can expect in terms of the technology companies. So there is it's a much wider and deeper debate, I think, than we might think. And the other thing is, I think we were absolutely right that I think the last point was talking about empowering women, and that is such a huge challenge for WSIS. We're doing our bit. The UN women's committees are doing their bit. We've got a huge, big challenge to really address these issues, particularly in the global south. And so I really do genuinely hope that going forward that will be a key priority for WSIS.
Thank you so much. Jimson, very shortly.
Yes, am I audible? Yes. Looking at how to deepen this discussion at the local level and also engage the youth, there's a saying that money answers all things, and that is to say they need support. The IGF has been doing a marvelous work, and if you are not yet a member, please try and be a member. It's an instrument to support the NII at the local level. We need more support, more input to strengthen the ability to provide some resources to those local activities for capacity building, for the next generation, building the next leadership. So please join us so that we can together meet this expectation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we will get back to our audience. The lady in green, please.
Gracias, Jorge. Mi nombre es Silvia Cadena. Soy la Chief Development Officer del World Wide Web Consortium. We work on accessibility, internationalization, privacy, security, and more recently, sustainability of the web that has allowed so much growth and development over the last decade. We would like to raise your interest and attention to the importance of maintenance of the core infrastructure that allows all of this growth to happen. There is a lot of emphasis on innovation and looking into the future, but a lot of those things don't happen that easy if we don't have really good succession planning for all of these technical pioneers that are retiring to play golf and do other things that they like, and the connections with the next generation. So if the next generation comes in, it's important from the technical perspective that they maintain the systems that have allowed all of this growth, and they understand what is the innovation that they are bringing in, so that they don't break anything that took so long to reach the scale that we have today. And that's very important for interoperability. And then Minister Tung mentioned the importance of investment and funding, and I think it's very important to consider also what are the incentives to shape the landscape, not to only be adopters of technology. So what incentives Norwegian companies, for example, can have to participate in the development of global open standards for the web, and how that brings also diversity and inclusion into this landscape. And that applies to every country. We have a very small number of organizations participating in these processes, and it's very important that the engineers around the world do engage. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, Silvia. Thank you, Sylvia. I don't know, Minister Tung, do you want to react as she referred to Norway?
Yes, please. The reason I'm into digitalization and technology is because I'm into the development of society. I want society to be a place where everyone can succeed, whether you are from the north of Norway, the south of Norway, whether you are rich or poor, whether you are a kid or you are adult. And I really believe that the technology has to reflect the values that we want to build our society on. So to be able to think about gender equality, social rights, whatever, women in tech or so forth, we have to bring these perspectives and these values into the infrastructure, whether we are talking about education as an infrastructure, whether we are talking about the internet as an infrastructure. For me, that is the value that I bring to the table when I want to be the most digitalized country in the world, because I really believe it is about how we develop our society and what kind of fundamentals we build this society on. Human rights, openness, transparency, democracy, everything has to be a part of the infrastructure. And the youth has a really important voice in that matter as well. And that's why I specifically addressed the youth when I opened Day 0 here at this hall on Monday, because we have to involve every perspective in the technology.
Thank you so much, Karian. Any other quick reaction? Otherwise, thank you for your patience. The gentleman to my right, please introduce yourself.
Qusay Al-Shati from Kuwait. First, I want to congratulate Norway on a successful IGF and for these wonderful, engaging, positive atmosphere days that we spent here. So all the thanks for the government of Norway for hosting us. We were part of the WSIS and the IGF since its inception more than 20 years ago. and we enjoyed wonderful, successful years that we have achieved a lot, whether on the WSIS action lines or on the IGF. And it is normal to see things evolve and to address the future issues and challenges. We saw this reflected in the GDC, and we look forward that the WSIS plus 20 foresee the future for us. Yet, I do believe that one of the most successful outcome, or the most successful outcome of the WSIS is the IGF. And this non-binding, non-outcome oriented platform should continue. And while we are voicing the support of its continuation, we still believe that within the WSIS plus 20 process, it's a still gray area if the IGF will continue as a platform or not. While we successfully addressed issues like diversity, bridging digital divide, diversity, and the multi-stakeholder processes. And we were successful on that and through as a culture and as a conduct, whether a global, regional, and national. Yet the IGF, which allows us to, as stakeholders to speak and talk and engage in policy dialogue in equal footing on all issues, and it serves us well. We believe that it is still a gray area, but for its continuation or not, and we are concerned to look if this platform did not continue. Therefore, we want to believe, or we want to have kind of assurances that such platform will continue, or what to do from here till a decision has been taken to support it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think many of us agree on those points. And there's opportunity to engage with the co-facilitators, with the process. Please do so. The more, the better. I will turn to Eleonora, and please speak a bit loudly to the microphone so that everybody can hear you.
Sure. Okay, I will try to project. So we have another question from Segun Omolosho. As we approach WSIS plus 20, how can we ensure that multi-stakeholder inputs at IGF and other platforms are effectively integrated into WSIS follow-up mechanisms, especially at the national level?
Yeah, maybe that's the million-dollar question or the billion-dollar question, which many of us have been thinking about. But I don't know if any of you has another very concrete and specific proposal.
Yes, this is Jimson speaking. Well, that's a very good question. You know, how do we ensure that multi-stakeholder model take effect effectively at the national level? I think it's just to appeal, you know, to leadership, basically, because we need champions. You can imagine the private sector that I led in 2012 to kind of cover the gap in Africa. So we need our leadership, regulators, stakeholders to take up the mantle and engage with the Sao Paulo multi-stakeholder guideline, wherein you can scope and ensure that all relevant stakeholders are brought in for meaningful participation. This is for our own good. This is to ensure that we arrive at the information society we want, with the prosperity of everybody, so that nobody is left behind. So I will really make this appeal to all our leadership, governments, parliamentarians here. Please make a case to ensure that all relevant stakeholders are brought in so that we can have useful dialogue for the benefit of our society.
That's quite clear. I see also Curtis and then Baroness Jones.
I think this was a phenomenal question. I think George really summarized this. This is the billion-dollar question, right? And I think one thing that worries me is that we've talked here about how successful this model has been. And what worries me is that we've been so successful we started taking it for granted, right? And I think that is the greatest worry. We can't take this for granted. This is something, the multi-stakeholder model, we have to defend and highlight the benefits, the value, the phenomenal inclusivity it brings every single day. And we need to do this on a national level. We all need to engage with governments. I'll have two on the panel, so you're engaged. But there's many other countries, and we need to do this every single day. This engagement needs to go on to show the value we create to this model, because only that way we will protect it. And that's, I think, is a very, very good question, and I'm very glad it was asked, because I think this is something we can't afford to start taking the current permissionless, innovationless model of the internet that has enabled all these other topics we're discussing here. You know, the internet's principles are what's enabled all these discussions, and sometimes I think we forget that.
Thank you, Curtis. Baroness.
Well, firstly, I'd say that I'm very pleased that so many UK representatives are here, and we've played a part in, a number of my colleagues have played a part in the panels contributing to the debate. So I think the very fact that we're here, we're contributing our views, but also listening, and that's a two-way process of engagement, and we take that back into our own organisations. So I think that development and the wisdom that we've learnt here and will help us develop our own policies in the future. So that's a very important point for us, that we don't have a static view. It's very much one that's learning as we go along. The second thing is that we have a very successful IGF conference in the UK, and I think the more we can do events like that, local and the regional level, will always enhance the debate that we need to have. So it's not a perfect system, but we are trying our best to make sure that we don't just have these debates in isolation, but we take them back to our own organisation.
Thank you so much. Then shall we go to the gentleman? I think it was your turn. Well, let's go to the right. I think Raul is pointing to the right, so let's take the gentleman there. Please introduce yourself and keep it to below 2 minutes.
Thank you, Jorge. My name is Rian Duarte. I'm from the Brazilian Association of Internet Service Providers. Thank you for the panel, for a wonderful discussion. In the last few days, we had many relevant and high-level debates, and we have seen global corporations on this stage and on the other many stages, and we should hear from them, as they are usually part of the problems we face, but are not always an active part of the solutions. On the other side, we still see an undersized role for small and medium enterprises and open source solutions. So on the topic of updating governance, I would like to hear from the panel about how we can strengthen the voice and participation of small and medium enterprises, as well as open source solutions in IGF and WSIS, especially from the Global South.
Thank you so much. Any immediate reaction to that? Shall we take another one for starters? Curtis?
I think I want to come back to this. It's a very, very important thing that we just highlighted again, because the current internet, and again, we just discussed here, every day we have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of SMEs who exist fully or partly because of the current internet, the current model, that enable them to create and innovate and become businesses. And you're absolutely right. We need to make that heard. We need to bring them into these discussions. It is a bit of a pull and push. I mean, we need to get them to engage and understand that. I think we'll come back to this, that we have started taking this for granted, and therefore it's not a threat. It's nothing to care about. But they should care about this. It's their livelihood, their business models depends on the outcomes here and these discussions. And we need to bring that message out, and we need to bring them into this discussion, not necessarily physically, but through the local regional IGFs, through the remote online participation today. There's many ways to engage with these forums and make your voices heard, but you're absolutely right. We need to bring those voices in here.
Jimson, you want to intervene?
Yes, very good question. I run an SME, Contemporary Consulting, and everything is on the internet. We are highly involved in digitalization, cybersecurity, integration, do research. So there is a lot of benefit being involved, and I encourage other SMEs that could be following to be part of the conversation, because there is a tendency for some to say, okay, Jimson is there, or these guys are there, let them be doing it. We need it to be part of us, because the internet is a great resource for productivity, for creating new opportunity, for employment, and bringing in new innovation. And so it is in our interest to support it. And another way is through association. And that's why we formed the Africa ICT Alliance, encouraging this association across Africa to be part of it, bringing your view, companies bringing your views so that we can collate and present it together. So, for example, in Nigeria, talking about startup law, there's a startup law encouraging new businesses. There is even funding for AI projects. So all these are true conversations we normally have. So bring in your ideas so that we can enrich the ecosystem. The opportunity is there for us.
Thank you so much, Minister.
Thank you. Just a short comment from me, because I think it's really important that we do have the different stakeholders here while we are debating topics that regards them. It's crucial for the legitimacy of IGF as well, and I think it's also a responsibility that we have as government to make sure that we are able to include the different stakeholders from our countries to be part of IGF, either physically or digitally. It was, from Norway's side, it was prioritized to work with our different embassies around the world to be able to mobilize participants from different countries to come to IGF in Norway this year, and especially it was participation from Global South, and I think Global South are highly participating this year's IGF, but it could have been better. I think we have to agree on that as well.
Thank you so much, Minister Tang. It's always a challenge to reach those participants, be it civil society, but also business with less resources, or technical community, of course, or academia. Let's turn to the gentleman there.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Raúl Echeverría. I'm the Executive Director of Latin American Internet Association and also MAC member this year. I have heard all the comments, and I think that I share almost everything that have been said here with regard to the role of WSIS and IGF and the implementation of GDC, the need for improvement, the need for renewal of IGF, which improvements. So it seems that we agree on almost everything here. But the perception is that the reality is not so easy, that there will be more complications in the negotiations. So my first question is, what are the main challenges you foresee in the negotiations from here to December? The second question, also linked to what the Minister Tang has mentioned right now, is that I have the impression that it is just a few governments that are really involved in the discussion, and at least at the capital, from the capitals. I'm sure that the missions are, many missions are involved in the conversations in New York, but when we talk to the governments from the capital, that's most of them are not aware of what's happening and what is the negotiation that is going on. So what do you think, how can we involve other governments in the discussion to have really a decision that reflects the interests of all the world? Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Raúl. Thank you so much, Raúl. And while our panel thinks about a possible reply, I would invite you to really take the opportunity to row at the microphones. We still have some time for interventions. Please use it. Don't be shy. You see, this is a safe environment. You can intervene. There are answers. It's very interactive. Please do use that opportunity. But now, going back to those questions from Raúl, which are really straightforward, and I see Minister Tong.
Yeah, thank you. I want to give a short reply on the first question, which was about the biggest challenges, because we sound very agree, but we know the times until December will be challenging, and it demands a lot of work from the co-facilitators, from every stakeholder, to be able that we get over the finish line in a good way. And my hope is that we are able to do so in a way of consensus, But the biggest challenge or the worst thing that can happen is more fragmentation, in my opinion, and that is what I fear the most. Yep. Thank you.
That's really important. Curtis?
It's a long way to December, as the minister just said. A lot of things can happen between now and then. I think there are some very, very careful optimism from these days. I think there is a lot to build on. That doesn't mean that there is unanimous consensus, and I think that will be a challenge going forward to build on what we have and work through that and make sure that all the voices are heard. And we had I think it's a very promising session this morning with the co-facilitators that were very open for the dialogue with all the stakeholders and take that input into account. Obviously, at the end of the day in December, this will be a nation-state negotiation, but I hope that we as technical community and the other multi-stakeholder groups can actually provide input into this and help to form a very constructive consensus before then and showcase why that is important and not just have the necessarily multilateral voices and concerns led, but actually the much wider consensus, and that will hopefully at the end bring us to what we have just talked here this morning.
Thank you so much, Curtis. I see Jimson.
The major challenge I see, even though the co-facilitators, they've demonstrated their resolve to involve all stakeholders. But the really main challenge I see, and which I try to battle every time, is to get our national government to be involved, to involve all of us, all the stakeholders in the conversation. It is so important that national government bring in all the other stakeholders. What are you thinking about? What is your view as they go forward to negotiate? Because we are not in the room to negotiate. So that is a serious challenge that is really in my heart. Like, look, even some are not even that responsive in terms of even being involved. So that answers the question. The second question is a real challenge. How do you get all the government at the national level to be involved at this? So we continue to encourage them. We continue to use this platform to say, okay, let the multi-stakeholder approach, let it be practicalized at the national level, scope the views of your citizens, and let them be part of the delegation. Let them be part of the delegation. You know, in the private sector, we can fund ourselves by and large, and I believe others can get their funding. But our voices need to be heard because we are all working together for the progress and prosperity of our nation using the digital technologies. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jimson. Baroness?
I would just say that we've spent the last 20 years trying to prove ourselves here, and I think now we've got to the point where we have done that, and I think if we can get to the point where we become a permanent part of the UN family, if you like, and we don't have to keep proving ourselves, then our voices will more broadly be heard. And but I do also think that we have a communications challenge because there's so much good things going on here, and perhaps we're not. We all take responsibility for this. Not so good at taking it back to our own governments and our own stakeholders and talking up the sorts of activities that happen here. But I think if we can get the permanent status sorted, then we will be a more recognised part of the international framework, and I think that would be really important.
Thank you so much, Baroness Jones. And I think, if I may abuse my role as moderator, sometimes the biggest challenge is to imagine that a positive outcome, which is more than just a zero-sum game, is possible, and to see what are the needed parts that allow all stakeholders worldwide to agree on such an outcome. And I'm hopeful that the discussions we had here will be a contribution to imagining that possibility. But I wonder whether, Eleonora, you have any input from online?
Yes, there is one more question from Musa Maigari from Nigeria. How can the IGF address the challenges posed by artificial intelligence and other disruptive technologies?
Thank you so much, Eleonora. And I will do a last call for please going to the microphone. This is your last opportunity. Later on, we will be shifting the segment. So please think about it while I see whether our panel has any reaction. Well, actually, the IGF has been discussing AI at least for 8 years. I remember in the 2017 IGF in Geneva, which we happened to organize, the Swiss government, together with the Swiss IGF, that it was already very prominent, and also the effects of the algorithmic systems to the public sphere and to the democratic system. But the word is yours. Curtis, you wanted to intervene?
Thank you. I think that the IGF doesn't, as you just pointed out, I mean, AI has been allowed to come into the IGF agenda, and I think large emerging challenges has been picked up in the past by the IGF. So I think we already have the forum for this as part of the MAG, and they do the work of the scheduling and the working groups, the open forums. I think that's part of the agenda that's being set already. I think we do pick up a lot of emerging technologies, and I think one thing we don't talk about, I mean, this is all the open and structured scheduling, but it's all these hallway discussions, this phenomenal discussion of ecosystem that goes on around the formal schedule. It also allows for a dialogue around some of these discussions and topics, and really the incubator of ideas. And I think the IGF has been very successful at that over the years.
Thank you, Curtis. Any other reaction on this question? I see Jameson.
Okay. All right, thank you. As a matter of fact, the topic of artificial intelligence has been on for quite a long time. It was one of my courses in the 80s in the university. So, but the ramification of it now is very serious. And IGF is a beautiful platform wherein we have all the stakeholders. We can also examine the ramifications of artificial intelligence. So one thing that we are taking away here is that a lot of best practices, approaches that governments are taking to tackle, the negative parts, the abuse part, and the positive part, encourage it. We get it here and go back to our national and encourage maybe the enactment of a law to ensure that the AI is used for good, AI is used for the benefits of the society. So there has to be some form of regulation, and that's something coming out of this place. AI can serve us well, can help us to realize the sustainable development goal faster, but at the same time, it can be used for harm, and that is why it has to be properly regulated, and there has to be some laws to guide those that are developing all the application. So coming from IGF, we get the policy framework, we get to know about best practices, we take it to our countries and localize those discussions. So that's why the IGF platform remains a credible platform to discuss these issues and other emerging issues that we'll see.
Thank you so much, Jameson. I saw Baroness, then Minister, and Fabrizia. Everybody has something to say on this topic.
Well, I was just going to say very briefly that I absolutely agree with the potential of AI, and we need to harness it as AI for good for all nations. But it is a specific challenge for us in terms of safety and security as well. And so we have a very particular role here in just sharing our expertise and sharing good practice, because this is a global challenge for us. But at the end of the day, the approach that WSIS has taken, which is that we are tech neutral in the sense that we address all of the tech challenges, I think is the right one, and it will be addressed, I think, as we go on increasingly in our forums, just as a matter of course. So I think we've got the right structures to do it, but it is a very specific and unique challenge and a concern for us, for all nations.
Thank you. Minister.
Thank you. I think it's important that each and every country has good discussion on how they want to use artificial intelligence as a technology. What are the challenges and what are the possibilities in each and every country, because it may differ. For instance, Norway is an energy nation, so for us to use artificial intelligence in the field of energy is an obvious thing. But together, I think we need to have international guidelines and international discussion about the ethical implication of the technology as well. And the discussion that are going on artificial intelligence when it comes to best practice and so forth, I think it's really valuable for every country, whether you want to use it within the healthcare sector or the energy system or within public administration and so forth.
Thank you so much. Fabrizia.
I think the added value of the IGF, it's its components. Who is it made of? What are the voices that you can hear here? And when you have discussions about the artificial intelligence, the technical community will have one take, governments another, the business community another, and so forth. And this conversation is extremely useful, but it needs to be passed on to those other institutions, both in the UN family and in national governments that are already working on AI. Because what we want to avoid is duplication, but what we want to increase is a synergetically approach that is mutually reinforcing. So get the voices, get the problems out, have the opportunity to have that discussion with each and every one, but make sure that then it becomes actionable in those fora where work is already taking place.
Absolutely, and that brings us back to this idea of the connecting tissue. We need to invent, we need to imagine, and then need to implement if we are able to agree on how to do it by December. I see, is there a gentleman taking the last opportunity to take the mic? Please go ahead.
Yes, please. My name is Bastiaan Winkel, and I work for the Department of Justice in the Netherlands. This week, we've highlighted the advantages of an open and free internet. We've underlined that we should stick to the working of the internet based on trust and multi-stakeholderism. Working on law enforcement, I'm also exposed to the dark sides of the internet. Online hate speech flourishing, CSAM materials widely available, our youth getting addicted to the mobile phones and to the social media platforms. I'm glad we're also addressing these issues at the IGF. But what can we do and how can we address these issues to also give our citizens the same protection online as they have in the physical world?
Another very important question. We will take the very last one from Eleonora from online, and then we will wrap up this part.
Thank you very much, Jorge. I actually just wanted to share a contribution from the online chat, and then I'll move into the question. So you may remember earlier, Segun had asked about how do we, ensure multi-stakeholder inputs are truly integrated into the WSIS follow-up, especially at the national level. And we had a nice discussion with Mark Carvell, formerly of the UK government, longtime friend of the IGF, who made the point that at the IGF's more than 176 NRIs are going to be vital for bringing those inputs in. So I just wanted to share that and move on to a final question from our remote hub in Benin. It was asked in French, but I'll just translate into English. Speaking of technological evolution, some regions in Africa are excluded from both the challenges and the benefits. What measures is the IGF taking to promote full inclusion, particularly of countries in the global south?
Thank you so much, Eleonora. And let's do a final round of reactions to these two last questions. Is there anyone from you, Minister?
I can start with the first question from the gentleman from the Netherlands. And yesterday, I really believe it was a good panel on this stage about protecting children from harmful algorithms. And we also see reports from the Norwegian security police that very young children are being captured by right-wing radicals on the different social media platforms and then further on to other platforms. So I think we need to do more. We need the governments to do more and better regulation, and I really believe that the European Union has done a great deal here when it comes to the Digital Service Act, for instance, which is good. So regulation is one of the answers. We need the tech companies to do more. They are not doing enough, so we need them to do more. And in the end, I think we need more international cooperation on these issues, because I really believe in an open and free internet, but to be able to have the open and free internet, we have to have trust in the internet, and we have to deal with the challenges that also internet brings to the floor. So I believe along these three pillars, government, regulation, international cooperation, and that we have, the tech companies have to do more themselves to tackle these challenges. So I'm happy that you raised that question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister. Baroness.
I think we can all identify with the dark side that you talked about, and it's a huge challenge for all of us. We're all trying in our own way to deal with this. I mentioned earlier that we have our own piece of legislation, the Online Safety Act, which is attempting to set some standards for how children in particular should be protected online. And I have to say that we have got a very good dialogue going with the tech companies to ensure that that's being implemented properly. But for us, we would like to share our experience and also to learn from other nations. So we do begin to set some sort of global norms about what is acceptable to appear on the internet, so that we don't necessarily all just do it country by country, but form a bit more of an alliance on all of this. So that is the way that we would like to approach it. But it's a very good challenge, and as has been said, we absolutely need to address it, because otherwise we won't maintain the trust, and people won't feel enabled to use the wonderful technology that we've got to its best advantage, because they simply won't trust it. So it's a huge and important challenge for us.
Thank you so much. Any other inputs to these two last questions? Jimson?
Yeah, very quickly, there was a report by UNECA underscoring the need for more investment in internet penetration. And a 10% increase in the internet penetration will give us about 8.2% increase in GDP per capita. And it also showed that a 10% increase in cybersecurity maturity will enable up to 5.4% increase in GDP per capita. This underscored the fact that our countries need to prioritize infrastructure, connectivity, access for more prosperity, and for more people to be reached down to the underserved areas. And then secondly, it also underscored the fact that there has to be cybersecurity maturity. For developing countries, the UNECA has come up with a model cybersecurity law that we can adapt even to customize our own local laws. And we heard from EU and from UK the efforts they also made in online safety. So they need to adapt this thing and make a near perfect law to guide the citizens' online activities.
Thank you so much, Jimson. So I think it's time now to wrap up this session. We will have a last segment of, let's say, interim final messages, because this is an ongoing conversation about the path forward with WSIS +20, with the IGF, and with how we work together. And I would like to start with Fabrizia, if that is okay for you, and then come gently over until Minister Tong to have the last word.
Thank you. Well, my first last word and thought is to thank the Norwegian government for the organization of the IGF. You had you had very little time to put it together, and the result has been magnificent. The venues are fantastic, and really the organization has been completely faultless. So thank you. On the WSIS process, I've already had the opportunity to reiterate our very strong commitment to it. strong commitment to the multi-stakeholder model that needs to be effective, inclusive, and actionable. Participation. The IGF itself that needs robust foundations, and a coherence between the different actions that we take in the WSIS with the SDGs that are coming up for review in 2030 and with the GDC. We can work together this path. It might not be completely straightforward sometimes, but that's the beauty of having different voices. And I think there is a real benefit in world terms for us to engage in this continue this pioneer experiment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fabrizia. Jimson.
Yeah, I will also say +1 to a expression of appreciation to our host for a very splendid IGF 2025. Thank you very much. Well, the WSIS has come to stay, and we are doing a review, and we're expecting that the IGF will be renewed or made permanent. And we're also hoping that all the stakeholders too will perform their own roles and responsibility. But most importantly, with regard to developing countries, underdeveloped countries, we need to also take it much seriously and deepen the conversation within our nationals, even up to sub-national, because there's a need for us to catch up, to leapfrog. Because we're looking at internet penetration is 39% or 40%, while the world average is about 60%. So there's a lot to be done. We need to bring in all the stakeholders so that we can fast-track the process of adoption, awareness, and even utilization of these tools. And finally, I want to really thank in advance our countries, because countries have never failed to host IGF. Thanking all the governments that are taking it up, and appreciating the leadership role they're playing in ensuring that IGF is sustained. So thanking them in advance.
Thank you so much, Jimson. Curtis.
I also like to thank the host for this successful and fantastic week you allowed us to have here in Norway. And after this week of contributing, listening, and engaging here at the IGF, I think one thing is very clear, and that is we're not simply talking about the future, we're actually shaping the foundation of the future. And the Internet's greatest strength is really its ability to coordinate at this phenomenal global scale without a centralized control. Is it something that's very rare, it's essential, and it's worth protecting? We at ICANN, we're not regulators, but we're stewards. We look after the unique identifiers and the technical components that makes the Internet keep working. The practical stakeholder-driven collaboration that we model is how governance must evolve. And the IGF is really where this governance and coordination happens in practice today. And it must remain open and global representative space that we have for this digital governance. We heard some questions and discussions earlier. Let's not underestimate what it takes to make this possible. But we really must give it the support it needs and keep doing what only the IGF can do.
Thank you, Curtis. Baroness Jones.
So I would like to echo all the points that have been made. Thank you so much to our hosts. It's been a fantastic event, beautifully organized, as we would expect from the Norwegians. And yes, I think it's been a very, very successful event. And I would just say that it's really, really important that a very wide group of stakeholders contribute to the WSIS review, because we want to demonstrate what we really represent here, and it is a very unique group of people. So everybody from governments, businesses, civil societies, technical experts, and academics. In order for this to continue to play the important role that it does, I think that everybody, the widest group of people, need to participate in the review. So I urge everybody to contribute.
Thank you so much, Baroness. And Minister Tung, you have the final.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for really kind words about Norway hosting the IGF. I believe it has been a success, but it wouldn't have been without you, all the participants, all the stakeholders. That is really why this is an amazing event, where we can sit down and talk to each other instead of about each other. And I really appreciate that. I think during the past 20 years, We have shown that you can trust the IGF and multi-stakeholder model. That's why it's important for Norway, and it is Norway's point of view that the IGF should have a strengthened mandate, that it should be permanent, and that we are able to integrate more the different processes that are going on. So I really look forward to meet you all at the next IGF, and Norway will be happy to share our experience also with hosting the IGF for whatever countries up next for hosting the IGF. So thank you very much, everyone, for being here.
Thank you so much, Minister Tang. And it's really wonderful, and when the expectations are so high, and the expectations were very high for you, for the Norwegians, it's really wonderful that everything is so perfect. But thank you so much. I don't have too much to recap. I look forward to the summaries that are being prepared by the IGF Secretariat together with Diplo Foundation. I think that's also worthwhile looking into the transcript of both this morning's session, which was very rich and engaging with the co-facilitators and with the Undersecretary General. And of course, all the inputs you gave during this very engaging discussion, and the ones we received from the audience, both here and online, I think are worth looking them over, seeing where are more solutions, more common ground fields, what we have to really address, where we have to still really force our imagination to come to good solutions. But with this, I would like to thank our panel, give them a warm round of applause. And also thank our audience. Yes. I think with this session is adjourned. Thank you so much.